Very nice. Yeah, I'm happy.
So I think in the after the event, I think maybe you can start. I shall start, more people will join you.
Not a problem. I know we're on a timer. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Women in Agile Africa Conference 2022. I'm excited to be here with all of you. My name is Makuba-Acha. For those of you who were not here earlier, I am a senior agility business coach and Mindshift speaker. Have you ever been in a situation where you have put yourself in a position of authority? You have trained and worked so hard, and just when you're about to get set, you can't move. If we watched the Olympics before, we see how athletes have trained for years and years. And all of a sudden they stand getting ready to run the 100-meter dash or 200-meter dash. And as soon as the referee puts his fire gun up and says, on the marks, get set, some people stumble. They're behind. What happened? You see, change in life is disruptive, but it's real. And in our organizations today, as we go globally, there is no institutions that's not going to face some disruption at one point in time or another. Moreover, we face disruptions in our lives as well. One of the things I remember that brings to mind, a wise person once said, vision is the art of seeing the invisible. But many times in this industry, it takes rare people to shift their mindset to be able to understand that possibility, to be able to understand the power that they have from within. I remember the story of a 19-year-old boy from Cameroon, West Africa. He was born at a particular time when the country was just undergoing colonial rule and slavery. All he wanted to do was become a mechanical engineer. Now, everything in his environment that he could see with his physical eye told him that would not be a possibility. But he was determined, because at that time, what he was looking with his eyesight was very little and pale compared with what he was seeing with his mind sight. You see, ladies and gentlemen, eyesight is limited, but mind sight makes you see incredible opportunities. This young boy finished technical college in Cameroon. His father got hurt on the police force and had to retire, which put the family in abject poverty. But he was determined. When his father retired, this 19-year-old boy needed to raise money for his passport. And through the goodwill of his father, people helped him get a passport, at which time he took a boat from Cameroon to Nigeria. Upon landing in Nigeria, he had no funds. And in what would begin, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. He started walking on foot from Nigeria to Liberia for 6 months in the bushes of West Africa. And all he could see was him becoming a mechanical engineer and changing the trajectory of his family. He got to Liberia and used the technical skills he had learned. And then he arrived at the United States and graduated from the University of Houston, summa cum laude. My father's story empowers me, and that's what made me to enter the field of agility. You see, in embracing an agility mind shift, it's not only to have a mindset. Through experience, we are taught to coach Scrum Masters and product owners and Agile coaches on helping the mindset of organizations. But in order to help the mindset of organizations, we have to encourage the possibility of allowing them and in coaching them to have an agility mind shift. Because in agility, we're able to be flexible. We are able to look at adversities and turn them into opportunities. So I always tell my teams and executive leadership, when you're faced with a crisis, don't waste your crisis. Look at your crisis critically and look at the opportunity. Mindsight and mindset are two different things. But we must go to a journey because, as Bill Gates says, success today requires organizations and us as individuals to constantly reinvigorate ourselves, reinvent ourselves, and embrace agility. And to do that, we will be constantly shifting. So you may ask, how do I get my teams, the leaderships that I work with, to be able to embrace an agility mind shift? Well, I'm here to encourage you that it's possible and it's worth it. Because in this industry where we are, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. The first things that we need to look at is having a work-life balance. We live in an environment today where the coronavirus has mentally challenged us. And in the public health space, we begin to see these different pandemics or epidemics really destroy the mental states of teams, of organizations. Health is a holistic manner. If your teams or if your colleagues are not healthy and do not have a work-life balance, then they cannot embrace creative thinking. Some of the greatest inventions that we have today is because despite all odds, the people were still able to sit and think and grow and innovate. That's why we have the planes today. That's why we have peanut butter. Dr. George Washington Carver discovered peanut butter and discovered there were 300 uses of the peanuts. And though he failed many a times, he failed forward to his success. So one of the things we need to do to embrace an agility mind shift is create a work-life balance where people are allowed to express themselves. Teams are allowed to be transparent. And when people do good work, they need to be appreciated. Because we come to our different jobs and our different entrepreneurial endeavors without knowing what people are dealing with. The second point to embrace an agility mind shift is to be able to understand that no matter what race you are, no matter what age you are, adversities come in different ways. Challenges will come in different ways. And those challenges are not to make us weaker or are not to put more pressure in terms of deadlines, but to be able to take a step back to make us stronger, to be able to collaborate and cooperate with each other. So that in working together and leaning on each other, we are able to think creatively because there is greatness in each and every one of us. There is a treasure within each and every one of us. I remember when I was reading a story about Helen Keller. Helen Keller was born blind. But even as a child, she was fortunate enough to have parents who did not give up on her. And so with that, she was able to read. She was able to even get certain skills. In other words, she'd be able to touch your face using the thermometer and know what you were talking about. completely amazing when we are able to shift our mind and shift our perspective. I have a nephew who is autistic. And while society may look at him as limited, he sees no limitation in himself. It is completely amazing what a 16-year autistic boy can do. His IQ grounds and records are so high. And the way he's able to decipher mathematical equations and coding programs is incredible. When you look at your circumstance, not with turmoil, not with anxiety, not with pressure, but using the agility values of interacting and tools, collaborativeness, and understanding that in each thing in life, whether professionally or personally, we are going to have to develop a mind shift. It's not just a mindset. When you have a mindset, what happens? A situation may come like the coronavirus and you have to shift it. Not only now do we have to shift this new way of working to work remotely and have higher technological access to be able to conduct teams remotely, like a conference that impacts millions of women in this agile industry. We also have to be able to come together as agile change agents and impact the mind shift of the people we work with. In the continent of Africa, as we know, agile can be leveraged in so many ways. But as I look around from country to country, imagine what could happen if we who are designated practice the skills of agility mind shift daily, embracing the fact that we have to be agile in everything we do. They talk about the laws of the universe, karma and whatnot, right? In Agile, we talk about values and principles. But did you ever think to look at those 4 values and see how they can apply to your life and how you can bring it to people? An agility mind shift enables you to be able to adjust when things come and can be able to allow innovativeness to be able to soar. The third thing we want to do when we want to embrace an agility mind shift is have a culture of respect for each other. Embrace the fact that iron sharpens iron. Embrace the fact to always be ready to learn. And do not be presumptuous or judgmental. Because sometimes you may be assumptions and judgmental and miss your mark. And then lose out on the greatest opportunity that you would have had. When we look at companies today and we see the challenges they go through, it's almost similar to the challenges that we have in our own lives. We talk about limited resources. We talk about inflation. There's so many things that indirectly affect us. And what is interesting in this life of agility is that we are all the same.
Hello. Hi, Makuba.
Hi.
I hope you don't mind. As a way of spotlighting all our speakers, we're streaming their session live. Is that okay? Is it okay for me to stream live?
That's fine. That's fine.
Fantastic. So I'll be going live with you for like 10, 15 minutes so more people can learn about your session. But you're the only one that will be visible. All right. So
okay.
I'll just carry on. Thank you so much for your patience.
You're welcome.
Okay. So carry on.
When we see the challenges of organizations, we look at they mirror somewhat the challenges in our own lives. We have to collaborate with people. Some we will like, some we would not. What gets us there? A maturity level of our mind shift to be able to focus on the goal at hand. Because we are called in a very particular situation at this moment in life where people are in self-doubt, where people are not sure that they can be able to perform, and where they don't have confidence in themselves. So being in a position where you can be able to lift people up despite the change and disruption is a very powerful thing. The fourth point on how to embrace an agility mind shift is use your voice. You have a very, very important role to play because of the treasure and the creative power that is within you. To speak up, to look deeply on how you can function and make organizations and help women in the continent of Africa be simply amazing as agile change agents. And then it becomes a trickle down effect. Because as I said earlier, like minds are stronger together than they are apart. In collaboration, we are the sum of all of the parts. In cooperation, we need some of the parts. But the bottom line is, just like Eleanor Roosevelt said, we all seek the same thing. We all want peace. We want happiness. We want to prosper. We want to be happy. And we want to have the passions. So we cannot be stagnant as agile change agents. We must always be ready, not only to I think we got disconnected. I'm sorry. I encourage you all to look within yourself and know that all things are possible. Look within yourself and know that embracing an agility mind shift is critically important for you to be able to impact in the long run. And lastly, develop the habit of always developing yourself. Because if you are going to have an agility mind shift, it means at every point in time, you need to be ready. You need to be ready for when the trials come, when the tribulations come, when problems come. Familiarize yourself with the industry. Educate yourself. Attend conferences as these and network. And you will see how embracing the agility mind shift can shift you into higher gear beyond your wildest expectations. My name is Makuba-Acha. It was a pleasing pleasure to speak with all of you today. And since we are 8 minutes, I'd like to leave some time for some questions. Thank you very much.
If you have any questions at this time, it will be the best to ask them. So please, you can unmute yourself and briefly ask the questions. Thank you.
I see Lauren, you have a question? Yes, I see your hand is raised. You can go ahead and proceed.
No, sorry, I do have a question. That was just a mistake.
Okay. Selma, your thoughts?
Okay. Thank you, Makuba, for your speaking. Thank you very much. I have a question, Makuba. How, in society, when the top management wants to change the organization into agility, how we can deal if people don't have a growth mindset? Should we impose agility first, or should we work on the mindset first? How does it work concretely on in the organization? My question is, if managers and top manager want to have agility in the organization, but people don't want, how we do it concretely? Yeah.
That's a great question, Selma, and thank you for that. That's one of the challenges, again, with Agile, just like it is in life, in our personal lives as well, where people don't want to grow. But one of the things I do through my Agility Mindshift programs is I focus on the mindset first. I focus on the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? What is happening around us that warrants such a change? And one of the things about Agile implementation, when you are asking an organization to change, sometimes they're not ready to change. You know, with the coronavirus, sometimes they're not ready to change. So my recommendation, and based on my experience and what I've done, is you try to focus on the mind shift first. And when you have the mindset ready and you're able to buy them, get buy-in from them, then you gradually look into the mind shift. Some of the recommendations I like to say is, teams like to be competitive. And sometimes when teams are competitive, you can decide and say, okay, let us pilot a 30-day Scrum team challenge where we look at certain parts and we just see how it goes. And then after that, you do an assessment and where you can get feedback. The more feedback you get on these little challenges, or let's play it like an Agile Scrum team for 2 weeks, things that are fun, because sometimes Agile may turn to be redundant in terms of ceremonies. And so you have to bring an aspect where it draws people in to be able to bring in different kind of creative juices.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Makuba. Thank you.
You're
very
welcome.
much.
I have a
So,
question.
yes, go
Can
ahead.
I ask another question, Makuba?
Yes.
Go ahead, go ahead.
If you don't mind. I have another question. In agility, there are frameworks like Scrum, Kanban.
Mhm.
My question is, do you know any company which is using agility without any framework? Does it work?
I do know that there are some companies that are using agility, but they don't want the aspect of a particular framework. For example, some of the simplest ways to start at agility is using Scrum, right?
Yes.
But then
right.
you have XP, and XP is really a turnoff from dynamic work design. So looking at processes on how they're efficient, effective, there's no downtime, there's not a long work in progress, we don't have bottlenecks. All those are different ways to be in forms of agility. I remember one company I just recently did a program for where they had a very bad Scrum experience, for example. And so they didn't want to hear the word about Scrum. And so they changed it to suit their culture, which in turn changes the mindset, right? Because now you're not seeing sprint planning. Maybe you're seeing bi-weekly plannings. Now you're not seeing the word daily stand-up. Maybe you're seeing team check-ins. So yes, to your point, there are companies, especially those little small to mid-size, that really are trying to follow the values and principles more and make agility more of what suits their culture along those lines of values and principles.
Okay.
So yes, I have seen that.
Thank you, Makuba.
You're welcome. However, on one of the frameworks, which is the Scaled Agile Framework, that's a little bit more difficult to do because, as you know, the Scaled Agile Framework really has a myriad of how you need to get things done to be able to get the value you're investing, because Scaled Agile Framework, it's expensive for companies to implement. So if organizations are going to use SAFe, then they need to really focus on the investment, the training, the mindset, and the program increment planning.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I believe someone had another question. I see Lenetor, but I don't see your name. I'm sorry. The host, our host, has a question.
Yes, I have a question. Now, let's say an organization like, for instance, maybe Shell wanted to start implementing Agile. What are the first steps that they should take in order to implement Agile? What are the first steps they should take?
One of the first steps I believe in my experience with large organizations such as Shell is to do a cultural assessment. Are you coming from a culture of micromanaging? What are the bureaucratic bottlenecks? When you do it, I have met many Agile professionals where we've worked together and collaborated to do a culture assessment first in terms of their management style. And in that management style, you're able to look at is there opportunity for growth? Are teams able to speak out? And then do an agility assessment. And in that, I use it very simple, where I look at XP. So the assessment is an XP framework because an XP framework has dynamic work design. And so people are more easier to understand those work processes and flow and understand those values quicker from what I've seen in terms of an assessment. Then you can be able to determine which Agile framework works for them on a pilot basis. So those are the three things. First, do a culture assessment, then do an agility assessment, either your dynamic work design, because if you're coming to a company that just wants to implement it for the first time, they are still in the waterfall area. So they will probably still have legacy systems. But when you create an assessment using an XP framework, they're quickly able to see the holes that the legacy system does and prohibits them from being relentless improvement.
Okay, thank you very much. Wonderful session, Makuba. And we would love to have you again. At this point, we are going to quickly, okay, hold on. Okay, at this point, we'll quickly like to end the session, but okay.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Makuba, how you doing? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It has been an experience indeed, handling a lot of speakers for the first conference of its kind. Makuba, I want to say thank you on behalf of every one of us. Thank you for being part of the session. You are highly appreciated. But we would like to equally invite you. You know, we have a weekly meetup for Lento, and we use that to promote agility in Africa. We don't want the conversation to end here. If you'd like to be part of our meetup, do reach out to us. It's usually every Thursday, 2 Thursdays for Agile conversation and 2 Thursdays for data. Our goal is to evangelize Agile in Africa. This is a pain point for me personally, and because it's a pain point, I am very grateful. I do not take it for granted. It's the first of its kind. Have we had problems? Most definitely. Are we learning through the problems? Most definitely. but I want to use this opportunity to invite you to be, use this opportunity to invite you to the next meetup if you'd like to, and hopefully next year's Women in Agile African Conference. So it's going to be an annual event, but definitely much better.
Oh, yes, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to us collaborating as I try to set up things here in Cameroon. So I'm not far from Nigeria.
Please invite me to Cameroon. I want to come to Cameroon, Mama.
Yes, I will.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, Mama. Merci.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. And I just want to say one last thing. As women, we are stronger together than we are apart. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Have a great day, everybody.
Makuba, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.